When I was 16 years old, my dad surprised me with a brand new copy of the newly released Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This was the first book he ever gave me, and it was a reward for topping my 10th grade. I was the first rank holder in my class. If you're not familiar with Indian culture, that's a pretty big deal and a major cause for celebration. My dad, though, was the proudest. I was actually saving up for this book to buy it when it was released. So I was truly shocked when I discovered the lengths to which my dad went to surprise me with this book. For context, he was the kind of man who put academics above everything, right? He would actually sneak around and hide my books because he thought that they distracted me from my studies. So when he gave me this book, beautifully gift wrapped with a lovely little note, I knew just how valuable my hard work was to him. I was giddy with happiness because I was the perfect student, the perfect daughter. But you know what I realized just a few years ago? Dad never rewarded me with anything unless I'd worked really hard for it. And even when there was a reward, it was followed up by higher expectations. It's not my father's fault though. He was being really sweet to show me how proud he was. It is our society that obsesses with external achievements being the only measure of success that had conditioned my parents with this mindset. Ever since kindergarten, I had been conditioned that my worth was directly proportional to how well I did in school. It didn't matter whether I enjoyed my subjects or not. It didn't matter that I was bullied or that I struggled with undiagnosed ADHD. All that mattered were those numbers on my report card. And this is how, from a very young age, I learned how to push my mind and body to get those perfect numbers. Later, when I was 26 and I started making watercolor art consistently, it deeply fulfilled me. So when I saw it being valued in the world, I quit my corporate job with a flourish to start my creative business. I was excited to find the freedom that I'd always craved. I was excited to not work long hours or to travel whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted. Basically to live that entrepreneurial dream, you know. But how you do one thing is how you do everything. I found myself back in the same high achieving patterns of my childhood. I worked every single day from the moment I woke up to the moment I fell asleep, tired, with my phone in my hand. I strived and stretched and pushed to achieve these cool milestones in my business because I was out to prove to the world that I was worthy of success. Forget about how I was feeling inside, right? Now, I won't lie to you. It worked. I prided myself over the meteoric rise of my business. I had it all on the outside. A large social media following, plenty of opportunities to grow my business, a wonderful supportive husband who is now my business partner, right? 2 fur babies, money coming in, and the privilege of luxury. But for some reason, I felt like a pile of ash on the inside. Every single time I achieved something, I felt a momentary rush of happiness, and then I was on to crush the next goal. My current achievements never felt good enough to me. So yes, hustling and grinding in my business worked until it didn't. I found myself in what I like to call the deepest pit of hell itself, burnout. But funnily, or maybe not so funnily, no matter what I did to recover from burnout, I kept going back to square one. So I got curious about it and I discovered that I was working from a broken strategy. I was trying to do more things to heal from burnout, at the same time trying to still micromanage everything and trying to keep the same levels of achievement in my business. In an analysis of 43 studies on perfectionism done over the past 20 years, researchers discovered that perfectionistic concerns, including the constant fear of making mistakes, the fear of failing, or letting oneself and others' expectations down, and the need for constant self-validation were all significantly correlated to burnout. This tremendous fear of failure results in a perfectionist almost never seeing the option of doing less better in their business, which then results in burnout loops. So when nothing I did seemed to help me recover from burnout once and for all, I turned to the lessons that watercolors, my medium of choice, taught me. These principles that my art taught me, which I'm about to share with you, finally helped me overcome perfectionistic and overworking patterns in my business. When I embodied them, I saw a quantum leap in our revenue, and the quality of my life, it improved immeasurably. So here are the 5 lessons that I learned. Number 1, let go of controlling the outcome. There is a level of unpredictability with watercolors. Water is fluid. It has a mind of its own. So the way my paint moves in water across my paper and settles, it's largely out of my control. Sure, I can direct the outcome of a painting to a certain degree, but after that, I have to get out of the way and let the water and pigments create their own magic. As a business owner and leader of a team, I used to believe that if I could just hold on to things tighter and tighter, I could predict where we were going and I could safeguard myself. So the lesson here for me was to trust the process. Because holding on to things too tightly and trying to control every little detail in my business and life was harming me way more than it was benefiting me. So release the death grip of hard set expectations and learn to go with the flow, because by doing that, you open yourself up to the possibility that things can actually turn out way better than you ever expected. There is beauty in transparency. Watercolors are unique because they're transparent. Light actually passes through the different layers of paint and it creates that signature radiant glow that watercolor paintings have. This taught me to share the imperfect layers behind my growing creative practice and business with my community. My imperfections humanized me to my audience and made them feel like they were a part of my journey as well. This ultimately led to lasting relationships with other artists, entrepreneurs, and my students. Real connections are built over your humanity showing through the work that you put out in the world. Let yourself be seen and let your community relate to you through your flawed journey. Everything stems from self-compassion. The reason why I was enamored by watercolors in the first place as a 25-year-old was because for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to just play with this mindful medium. Surprisingly, I was nice to myself when I painted. That mean voice in my head that used to tell me, Trupti, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, it was quieter. This was a huge reason why I could just keep going, keep painting, and eventually build a beautiful business out of this, because my own approval was good enough for me to put my art out in the world. This lack of harsh judgment actually enabled me to grow my painting skills even faster. I realized that I needed the same level of self-love as an entrepreneur. I needed to allow myself to just play and have fun in my business without my own severe judgment. Imperfections are a matter of perception. So I remember this large painting I'd made, and the way I painted a bird, I could have painted it better, But over time, that one bird started looking like a big glaring blotch right in the middle of my painting, and it infuriated me. But when I finally got over myself and shared it on my Instagram, guess what happened? Nobody saw what I perceived to be a huge flaw in my painting. In fact, it went on to receive a lot of love and even sold to a delighted client. That's the painting right there, hanging in her house. We magnify our flaws so much in our head that suddenly it becomes the only thing that we can think about, right? Can you relate to that? So when you start obsessing over little details and it stops you from moving the needle, it's time to step back from the picture and be willing to look at the larger beauty of what you have to offer to the world, because others are willing to do that. It's really true when they say that we are our own worst critic. So this might sound a little bit harsh, but it's actually quite liberating when I say, get over yourself and put your work out there. Less is more. One of the biggest mistakes that I see my students make is that they're always trying to change or add one more thing to their painting before they declare it perfect and finished. But before you know it, the painting is ruined because now it looks too busy or muddy. As an artist, it's vital to know when to stop. In my business, when I was trying to do too many things to make my offering seem perfect and thus desirable, I got so close to the picture that I couldn't even see the essence of the impact that I wanted to create. It clouded my vision. Has there ever been a time when you felt like you were doing so much, so many things, that you couldn't even recognize or remember why you were doing it in the first place? It's important to zoom out and see where you might be overcomplicating things, because you're likely operating from the belief that doing more equals more success. So along these 5 lessons that I just shared with you, the ultimate antidote to perfectionism that watercolors taught me was to love myself as I already was, committing to doing less better, and showing up as an entrepreneur with radical authenticity and vulnerability. Once I let go of my obsessive need to micromanage everything and I committed to resting more and working less, some really interesting things started happening in my business. Tell me, are you the kind of person who still believes that the more you work, the more time you spend in polishing things, the more successful you'll be? If you said yes, I'm going to share some numbers with you that are going to completely shake your belief. And yeah, I come with proof. Because I'm sure you're thinking, Trupti, come on. Those are nice words and all, but are you seriously telling me that I can work less, put out imperfect things, and attract more revenue? I know it sounds too good to be true, but numbers don't lie. This is a graph that has tracked my monthly revenue from 2019, which is in blue, and 2020, which is in orange. In my business, October, November, and December used to be really important months for us because of the holiday season. It used to be the time of the highest sales activity. So you can imagine how I used to be a ball of stress trying to control every little detail to make sure that we had a successful season. In October 2020 though, I took the awfully painful yet courageous step to let go of control. I delegated most of the holiday sales to my team. I was terrified that everything would come crashing down the moment I let go. This is where it gets really interesting. By delegating more to my team and by allowing myself and my team members to take imperfect action, our revenue shot up, as you can see, in October, November, and December of 2020. This was my first piece of evidence that hard work and perfectionism didn't really result in an increase in revenue. Nobody told me that it could be this easy. So I decided to lean into it. Now 2021 was where it really got interesting. You can see how our revenue exploded every month. In fact, the highest revenue came in July, which you can see used to be a slump month, and I no longer had to rely on just the year-end sales for the success of my business. I embodied the belief that I was worthy of success even when I wasn't perfect. This actually gave me a lot of time, energy, and the right mindset to experiment with different things in my business in 2021. Perfectionism went out, fun came in, and so in 2021, our business grew by 150%. Nobody told me it could be this easy. I can see now after my experiment how many more people I would have been able to help had I only learned to set my perfectionism aside sooner. I wonder how many people are led to believe that starting a business is overwhelming because our current culture makes it seem like they need to have it all together and do a lot of things in order to see significant success. As entrepreneurs and leaders, we need to replace perfectionism with authenticity and vulnerability for our own well-being, continued success, and the unique position we hold to inspire others. In a culture that demands us and that conditions us to put our best, most flawless selves forward, showing our flaws is an act of rebellion because real is what helps people. And you know what makes us real, beautiful, and endearing like a painting? It's our imperfections. So why would we believe that we need to run our businesses any other way and make it unnecessarily harder on ourselves? Ponder on that. Okay, so funny story. The last time I let my perfectionism stand in my way was when I started working on this TEDx talk about perfectionism. That's right. Oh my God, I cannot believe how I made this way, way bigger in my head, and I put so much pressure on myself. I made myself absolutely miserable, and I allowed for a lot of self-loathing. But these principles that I shared with you that my art taught me are the very same ones that I embody every single day in my life and business. And that's how I know that I am good enough to stand here in front of you today and share with you my imperfect TEDx talk. You know, there's a mantra that I learned a while ago. 70% perfect is perfect, 100% perfect is failure. So the next time you catch yourself convinced that what you want to share with the world is not good enough, put your hand on your heart and tell yourself 70%, 70%, 70%. Thank you.